Hello, everyone, and welcome to another small screen Star Wars. As always, I'm Julian Mush. I'm joined by Rachel Wilkinson,
Hello.
and we are going to be talking about today Star Wars: The Bad Batch, season 2, episode 5. Not Entombed. I apologize. Tribe. Yes. Directed by Brad Rao and Stuart Lee. Written by Dave Filoni and Jennifer Corbett. We'll get into it, but this is an improvement over the last 2 weeks, in my opinion. So
Yeah, I would
should
say
be
so.
should be a bit more of a fun discussion although still not very I still don't have a lot of notes in terms of notes. I've only got let's say about the same as I did last week.
Okay.
Not
Yeah, I mean,
that much actually happens in this episode, but
that's
there's more
what I
to
was
talk
gonna
about.
say. It's
Anyway, before we get into it, I will talk about a couple things. Follow us on Twitter at Tower Babelcast. In fact, I've been very busy. I was distracted today, to be honest. My ADD was really getting to me with Twitter, specifically around this Netflix sharing thing. Have you been following this?
Oh, a little bit,
Password
yeah.
sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So they're introducing these new rules about password sharing,
Right.
and it's very restrictive, essentially. And
Right. Yeah.
shockingly, under all the stories on Twitter that say, "Hey, here are the new rules for the password sharing, etc." It's filled with people saying, "Well, this is fucking stupid. I'm going to cancel."
Right. Yeah.
And then, but somehow, there are corporate bootlickers out there saying, defending the decision, and I was just could not. I had to. I had to say something. Is what I had to do. So
yeah.
I spent most of the day articulating an argument about why it's dumb,
Mm-hmm.
why what they're doing is stupid, and most people agreed with me, so it felt good.
Oh yeah,
Which is really the whole point of Twitter, right?
Yeah, they're gonna lose a lot of just revenue and everything from this. It's not gonna go the way they think it is.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It ultimately, we can talk all we want about this. It's only gonna it'll all come out in the wash, in the sense that we're gonna see their public company. We're gonna see their revenue numbers, and if they're not improved by this decision, then then it's a complete and utter failure. But I think it's actually gonna be worse. I think they're actually gonna lose money on this decision, because one of the main examples that people were using are like, what about my kids who are off at college? Which is sure, that's a subset of a
Right.
subset, but that's just one of another one that I saw, which I think is to be honest, probably the most compelling argument, which is that what about my elderly grandparents who don't understand any of this?
Well, yeah.
You know,
Like, come on. I
it,
feel like if you want to restrict it, like you can always whatever, restrict it to 2 households or something like that, right?
no, it doesn't have to.
Like, I don't
It
know.
just remove
It's
the whole idea of needing to be in the same location.
yeah.
We're talking about digital technology. There's no reason we need to do it that way. To
Yeah.
pretend otherwise is
Yeah.
obtuse
Well,
intentionally. So
don't they
yeah.
already restrict how many like people can watch it at the same
Yes,
time?
that's the whole
Right.
point. We're already
Yeah.
paying extra. This is the whole kicker. See, now I'm getting into it now. The
Yeah.
kicker was they already have a solution for this, which is
Right.
pay extra to have multiple screens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And all they've done is change the definition after using that same methodology to grow their business,
Right.
to now say, oh, that's actually not that's not what we meant. What we meant was they have to be in the same house. So
Gotcha.
now they're changing the rules, and
Yeah.
they're not changing there's no they're not making it cheaper. There's now an ad version of Netflix if you want to do that, which I think, that also, the cat's out of the bag, in the sense that you already introduced the whole no ads thing. You can't put the ads back in. No one's going to want that.
Yeah.
Secondly, you spent years promoting, there's tweets and there's saved tweets. There's no way to and PR around them saying, love is sharing passwords, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And now you're gonna come back and say, well, that's actually not what we meant. You were always breaking the terms of service, and now we're just enforcing it. So you were really just getting a benefit for before. No. The cat's out of the bag. You enabled this, and now it's too late.
Yeah.
You can't come back and try to change the rules now. But the problem is, here's the thing. There's this one piece of me. This is why I feel so strongly about all this. There's one piece of me that's like, if this works, it's all over. All the streaming services are going to do it.
Yeah.
And now we're just back to paying $150 a month in cable. But here's the thing. And the other side of that coin is, if that does happen, all the work that they did trying to reduce piracy, which actually worked when the proliferation of streaming happened, people were like, well, it's actually more convenient for me to just pay for this and just get it
Oh yeah.
than it is for me to pirate it. But the second that they make it more convenient for me to pirate it than it is
Oh, I'm going back
for me to
it.
pay, then
Yeah.
it's pirating again, and they're gonna unwind all these years of progress that they had on
That's
piracy.
very true.
And guess what? That's not gonna help them. Less eyeballs on their shows aren't gonna help them. And this is all compounding, by the way, in the fact that their programming is also lackluster. You know, the Wednesday was popular, but what was the last show? I mean, it's Stranger Things and Wednesday. And then if you look at like the top 10, at least in Canada, it's like all reality shows.
Yeah.
And listen, that's not my bag, you know. But
no, me neither.
And listen, if you want to watch reality shows, you know, you go ahead, you do you. You know, I won't judge you. I'll just judge the shows as being crappy.
Isn't
but,
that what
you know,
Hulu's for, though? Isn't that where all the reality shows are?
No, I mean, to be honest, there's reality shows everywhere, and they're all garbage. But,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sure there's a good one, but I'm not gonna try to find it. Let's put it that way. So, anyway, this is my like, this is the hill that I'm dying on. I've decided. So I will fight tooth and nail, and I just don't understand these people, and I'm just like, you got to stop thinking like a hedge fund manager. You don't work for Netflix. It doesn't matter to you. Do you own stock? Is that why you care about this? They're like, well, they've sold everything they can. They've saturated the market, so this is the only way they can make more money. It's like, that's not my problem. That's not my problem. You know, like don't make this this is what happens. This is late stage capitalism for you folks. This is what happens. once you've sold, you've actually created a successful product. Congratulations. That capitalism will reward you for that. You get to the point where you get so big or you get so successful that you now actually have to start punishing your customers for being so successful, so you can somehow make more money. So that's the danger. This, by the way, happens. This has already happened with Disney World and Disneyland. If you're going to pull things back to Disney Plus, which is where, of course, Star Wars lives. I've never been to an amusement park of that type before ever, and I may never. Maybe one day, but I hear about it because there's a lot of people online talk about these things. But yeah, Disney is not innocent here. That being said, Disney Plus, good value. The service is good, works well.
Yeah.
The content is pretty good. I
Hey.
watch more Disney Plus than I do Netflix probably. So.
That's how I feel about Amazon Prime, too. I'm like, I get pretty good bang for my buck. Like, yeah, it's more expensive now. It's like, what, I think I paid $110 this month for it for the year.
But still cheaper than Netflix.
But I get all the stuff with Prime. I can also do like the rentals and things that are like relatively cheap. Plus, I don't have to pay shipping on any of the crap I get shipped to my house.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is the thing. They're doing all this work to try to crack down on the problem that's not a problem.
Yeah, exactly.
So that they can make more money when the problem isn't the consumer, it's you. Look in the mirror, Netflix.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. This is what they should be saying.
Well, they're going to realize that when they lose all the money.
There's been a lot of they'll fuck around and find out. Sorry, pardon my language. But we'll see. We shall see. I mean, I'm interested regardless. I'm just the pessimistic side of me is very concerned that this is going to work for them, and I don't want that to happen.
See, currently I'm on the end of where Adam, my partner, he has Netflix, and we're the ones that share our password with his family.
Right.
So I'm like, we're not really affected by this because he already pays for the Netflix.
Well, so here, actually, I'll articulate. This is interesting. So I'm according to Netflix, I'm a freeloader.
You're the moocher, yes.
I'm the freeloader. So, but the thing is, and this is where it gets funny. My parents don't watch Netflix.
Right. Yeah.
They pay for it, but my brother and my sister and I and my grandmother, we're the ones who watch it. They're just subsidizing because they're nice like that.
Because they're nice people. Yeah.
Yeah. But if we can't watch it and they're not watching it, they're not going to fucking pay for it. They'll just quit.
Yeah.
They'll just cancel.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot. I think people are I think they've there's a lot of factors they've unaccounted for here.
Yeah.
A lot of scenarios that they haven't thought about. They just saw, look at all these people not paying who could be paying, and thought, well, let's just go after them. And I just really don't think this is going to go the way that they think.
But yeah,
So.
you're right. Those grandparents and those college kids, they're not going to go out and get their own Netflix now. So.
No, they were never going to.
Good job, Netflix.
They were
See you
never
never.
going to.
Disney Plus is just waiting in the back to like pick up all their shows.
And maybe they don't care. Maybe, I mean, but like in my opinion, it's like I think you want those eyeballs. You know, you guys, when a show is big, you want people to see it, right? The conversation is important, but if the less eyeballs, the less conversation. That's not a good thing. I don't, But what do I know? I'm just a podcaster. All right. Also, so that's follow us on Twitter. Also, facebook.com/TowerBabbleCast. We're recording this live. We do this every Thursday night at around 8:30-ish Central Time. And you can follow us there at Twitch, twitch.com/TowerBabbleCast, as well as on YouTube, and you can find us there. And if you want to help support the show, you can do so by heading over to patreon.com/TowerBabbleCast. Now, I have a big announcement here, actually, and this will be the first place that I can announce it now that we're officially into February.
Mm-hmm.
There's some changes afoot at Patreon. So for longtime listeners, you'll know that we have been doing a $5 fee for $5 US fee for our exclusive content. So it was always two things. You got access to the Discord, which is where you get to hang out with the Tower of Babel community. Great time, great place. Not too busy, so you don't have to worry about a million notifications and the like. But it's that's a bug and it's a feature, right? We want more people in, and the reason that we've done and to enable that, we've actually done something interesting that I think people will like. We've actually created a $2.50 tier, so half the price, that gets you access to the Discord, and will keep your feed ad free. Now, we haven't introduced ads yet, as you may know.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean we won't. So the promise there is, you get to support the show. It'll always be ad free. And for the first 3 months of the year, if you sign up between now and February, March, April, you will get access to the film club. So you'll get those anyway, and the back catalog. So you can go back and look at those, and get a taste of kind of what that behind the scenes stuff actually seems like. And that's just for $2.50. $2.50.
Yeah. That's
all
less than a coffee.
Well, yeah, it's less than a coffee, except unless you go to one of those weird, those like diners that are kind of like feel like they're stuck in the past.
Right?
Definitely holes in the wall. They make the coffee's bad.
Terrible. It's been sitting there for 4 hours.
Yeah. And it's like an 80-year-old woman that works there. Yeah. That's where you can get a coffee for $1, and we can't compete with that. But for $2.50, you get access to the Discord, and you get a promise that your stuff will be ad free. And I hope you'll at that point be like, you know what? What's another $2.50? And opt in for those film clubs, which are exclusive, and of course you get to help decide the movies if you choose to. Okay. And speaking of the movie this month, we just did The Saint. This month we're going to be doing Jackie Brown, the Quentin Tarantino movie, a movie that none of us have seen, so it's actually quite exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's talk about Star Wars. This is Tribe. This is the logline. The Bad Batch help bring a new friend home, which is quite accurate. Where should we begin? Do you want to just give your kind of overall thoughts on the episode?
Yeah, I mean, I was excited to see that cute little Wookiee again. That was kind of cool. He's very sweet. Man, like, Jedi Wookiees are so cool. I think they're just like, I don't know. In my books,
the one from the. Have you been reading the High Republic stuff?
Yeah,
I haven't.
Burryaga is out of Burryaga. They just call him Burry.
For short.
Yeah. Man, but like a Wookiee Jedi to me is just, for whatever reason, so much cooler than any other Jedi.
Well, yeah, it's because Wookiees are cooler than everyone else. Full stop.
Like, it's just awesome. So I'm like, oh man, it was like really cool to kind of get to see him and all that, right? So, I was a very good kind of change from like the last couple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
I get that this one's still kind of along the lines of a one-off.
It's technically in the same vein, but
to
better.
Me, at least it's actually like it's acknowledging other things that are happening in the world. Like, it's
Yes.
acknowledging the Empire's impact on things. It's acknowledging, like, the hunting that's going on of Jedi. Like, it is acknowledging these other things that are happening. So I'm like, okay, sweet. We're getting into it. We're getting a little bit closer to this kind of, I'm assuming at the end of this, whole arc or season, we're going to see a tumultuous explosion of Empire crashing with Bad Batch or something, right?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think this show ends with however the I want to say it ends with some sort of like whatever that clone rebellion idea is.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the Bad Batch don't they don't have that strong of a relationship with the regular clones. They never have. So
right.
How invested are they going to be in their particular plight? I think the message that we're getting out of this show is that the Bad Batch care about the well-being of everybody, and that means the clones too. But
yeah.
Do they feel like the revolt? This waking up of the regular clones that we saw through kind of as an example through Cody in episode 2, episode 3. The second week is why that's why I thought that.
Mm-hmm.
That waking up, maybe they feel like they owe it to their clone brethren to help them, but I don't feel like they have that type of relationship. So,
yeah,
and it certainly is an extremely dangerous thing for them to do. Not that they've ever shied away from danger, but to bring someone like Omega into that,
of course,
who is of course obviously has the same. She has the same connection. She is also a clone,
right?
So Omega, as she introduced herself again this week. But I just don't think that's like, it's not their fight. It feels like to me, right? They weren't the ones that were forced to commit Order 66. If the clones who are standing up feel that was wrong, the ones who did it or forced to should be the ones reckoning with it, and should be led by someone like Cody, who had to turned on someone who considered to be a very close friend of his. So that I feel like it has to be more of the resolution to this season has to be more personal. I think.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean in terms of like the Empire versus the Bad Batch. I mean a little bit more like Crosshair and Admiral Rampart and like that kind of thing. But I feel like at least with this episode, we're getting a little bit deeper, a little bit darker, and we're getting into some more I don't know, just some more of the sketchy things that the Empire is doing and that kind of stuff, which I appreciate seeing. So overall, I was way more happy with this episode. It didn't feel as kind of like fluffy and light as the last ones.
And there's nothing wrong with fluffy and light in inherently on its own, but I feel like when you don't have anything to sink your teeth into at all, when there's no there, it kind of gets it just feels disposable. And this episode does not feel disposable, despite the fact that it doesn't really move along the Bad Batch story in any particular way. Not necessarily, in a more, maybe not in a traditional way. It does in the sense that we kind of get more character growth, but I mean, even then, not really, because it's kind of just more of the same. Hey, these people are in trouble; they need our help. That's the kind of the crux of it, right? All right. So, but otherwise, I agree with you. I think this is an improvement, and it's because there's some effort here to do some world building. Obviously, having connections to things like Gunji is palpable. It means something. So it's not just that, oh, hey, Gunji's back, but it's Gunji happens to be an entryway into exploring Kashyyyk, which is something that we haven't really done a lot of, to be honest. I mean, the books have done it. If you read the Aftermath books, it's amazing how much stuff the Aftermath books cover that is still being kind of seeded in kind of like traditional media. And there's all these kind of these books and comics that extend the universe, right? But not all of them I get the same weight. Aftermath talks about a lot of things, including Kashyyyk, and what they're talking about in that book is kind of seeded here, and that's not. And things that happen in other books aren't always, they might have happened or might not. Their effects are not felt on the on the television or on the movies. So anyway, it's interesting in that way. So
yeah,
let's get into it. We start at the Vanguard Axis space station, and I gotta say, it's a pretty cool looking space station. I thought this whole opening sequence looked so good. It was so atmospheric and moody. I thought the kind of the shot choices were compelling. I think the lighting was really cool. I mean, anytime you're on a space station, you could do cool stuff with lighting, but this was a space station that was run by droids. So that's even cooler, in my opinion. It does, again, raise this whole question of, like, droid autonomy or whatever that means, or, within the Star Wars universe. Again, don't ask questions, because just like the Wizarding World, as soon as you start poking holes, you see you can find a lot more. But I think overall, aesthetically, it's very cool. And to be honest, and I know this used to bug Dan a lot, which was that, like, as long as aesthetically it looks cool in Star Wars, that's, like, enough most of the time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, that it looks cool is a good enough explanation for anything most of the time in Star Wars, right? And
pretty much, yeah.
That's not always the case. And sometimes that, that decision means that they have to go back and explain something later in a way that feels a little clunky. But to me, there's kind of some charm in that. So
yeah,
for me, that works.
Like that. To me, that's just sort of like it's classic. Like that's
that's just how Star Wars is, right? Yeah. Is a giant 4-legged walker really that effective of a military device?
Not.
Probably not.
But
no,
it looks cool.
Right?
Yeah.
Wheels are pretty effective, turns out. But it looks way cooler if there's a walker.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll just do that, right? So that kind of stuff I think is just inherent in Star Wars, and I think if you can't get past that, I think you're gonna have a hard time enjoying anything like the Bad Batch. So
that's like when people get mad about, like, ships exploding
and making sounds
in space, and like
they're
like, oh well, if Jedi fight with lightsabers, why don't they just use the Force to turn off the other guy's lightsaber? Mid-fight.
That is, to be fair, that is still a really funny thing to think about. It's just like you guys are just like they're just like turning it off on each other, and that's like so funny to me. But
to me, it's also just like it just seems so childish. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, like you can nitpick the shit out of like anything.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, yeah, then to the point where it's stupid, but I don't know. It just makes me laugh. I'm like, yeah, but it's just not like that, okay? They just don't.
they just don't, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Did I say that, by the way? I think I might have misspoken when I read the directors. It's Stuart Lee and Brad Rao, just to be clear. Anyway, so let's get into this Vanguard space station stuff. The Batch arrive at a very cool looking space station run by droids, who apparently are notorious for illegal smuggling. Hunter, Wrecker, and Tech meet with the leader. By the way, this is the other thing, is like, how amongst droids, how do you elect a leader exactly? I don't know how that works, but because they all seem the same except he's a different color.
I mean, that's fair. I bet they have a really good way of doing it because they're droids and they're very efficient.
Right, they just vote. And
yeah.
Just, okay, yep. It'll be 1, 1, 2, 3, 4 as the leader. Decided. Okay, so they meet. But to be honest, though, I thought the voice performances by the two guest stars here, Jonathan Lipow as the cartel droid leader, and JP Karliak, who voices other cartel droids, but also the Trandoshans later.
Okay, yeah.
Which you might not recognize these names. I don't think most people will. But specifically JP is a name who, if you look at his IMDb, is just like every video game and a bunch of animes and stuff. Like, you've heard their voice before.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, just a very kind of like this gets the job done type thing. But anyway, I thought I really liked the subtle performance that this droid leader had. I just thought it was like had a cool presence about them. And I also like the idea that Hunter, Wrecker, and Tech are selling what are they?
Chain codes.
Chain codes for money. Yeah. Right? This is a 100% like illegal, like black market thing to do. And it's like
chain codes.
Oh, we got to do it.
Remind me, that's not for ships, right? That's for people.
It's for people.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, they're basically selling illegal chain codes that will like pop up with a different identity. It's like fake IDs.
Yes, they're selling fake IDs. That's
Love
right.
it.
Yeah. And by the way, I love how tech is like, listen, you don't have to check these. I made them myself. I know they work. And he's like, okay, buddy, I don't know who you are, so we're gonna check them anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, cool, but we're still gonna check them.
Yeah.
And it just kind of, I like it. This is as kind of like a wrinkle that we don't see, which is like, what are they doing to make money when they're not running jobs for Sid?
Right.
This,
well,
this for all we know, this is a job for Sid, but and I like that they leave Echo and Omega behind because they're kind of the two that are the most the most difficult to work with, probably.
Oh.
Yeah, well, it's like one's got a droid arm, so it'd be hard. I feel like that's difficult when you're dealing with droids, and then Omega's a child. So when you're dealing with crime lords, it's best to leave those two out of it, I guess.
Yeah, fair enough.
So while the droids are checking the quote-unquote viability of the chain codes, Omega gets a bad feeling about the space station, and Echo is like, yeah, me too. I'm going to start prepping the ship. She hears a scream in the distance and goes off to investigate. Now, this is kind of one of the parts where I thought the visuals were really cool. Her sitting on those steps of the ship, and then just having the star field behind her, behind the blue force field thing. Very cool looking. I just like in profile. I just think that we don't spend enough time in docking bays, in my opinion. I just like the visual look of like that big open door with the blue outline. I don't know. It's just something about it. Just
we need to spend. I don't think I've ever heard anybody else say we need to spend more time in docking bays.
Yeah, they're cool. Okay. So yeah. So, or is it a landing bay? I don't know how that works. So she hears this scream in the distance and she goes to investigate. This is another one of those things where people are like, is she force sensitive here?
Yeah.
Because she doesn't say she's getting a bad feeling, but she might as well have said that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's possible that she sensed the disturbance in the force.
Well, yeah, right? Like she senses the Wookiee's
pain,
or his suffering or his fear, and for sure, like, yeah,
possibly. Good. Just add that to the old secret, the old secret Jedi track. Yeah,
the spreadsheet of is she force sensitive? Yeah,
that's right. Which we all are keeping. I presume we're all keeping a spreadsheet of that. Okay, so she investigates and she finds a young Wookiee being kind of shocked by two more of these Axis droids who tell her to back off and mind her own business. But we know Omega well enough. She doesn't like when people are getting hurt. So she creates a distraction, essentially, and this helps Gunji escape. And, of course, by the way, we should stop here and pause. Who is Gunji?
Ooh.
Right? So,
yes.
Do you want to tackle that? Who's Gunji?
Oh, I mean, I definitely can. Yeah, we first meet him I kind of like went back and looked it up and watched like the first episode with him in it.
That's the best one.
It is. It's a really good episode, and I highly suggest everybody go watch. It's in season 5
of the Clone Wars.
I think the episode is called The Gathering, I think.
That sounds right.
So yeah, it's a group of younglings, and they're going off with Ahsoka and Yoda to Ilum to find their lightsaber crystals.
What will eventually become the First Order base in the Rise of Skywalker.
When they get there, it's very cool. There's like a whole ice temple, built around a
Star Killer base. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
No. But there's a whole ice temple built around a cave that's full of kyber crystals.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to go find the one that either, kyber crystals tend to sort of like sing to Jedi or call out to them or shine in some way. But it's a good little arc of watching these younglings get their different crystals. I keep wanting to call him Burriega from the books, but Gunji specifically, his is all about patience. It's kind of like in Harry Potter. When they have to wait, I don't know. He has to sit there and wait for like this whole lake to freeze before he can go across and like get the his crystal. So his is all about
so he
like
sits
patience.
there. He sits there and he does meditation, if I recall.
Yeah, he does because his But and then even in the next one, the next episode after that, it's all about them building their lightsabers with the I can't remember what Ahsoka calls him. He's a droid, and he's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I know."
They have a special droid.
Yeah, he's got a fancy name. But he has all, and again, also kind of like Harry Potter, he's got all these drawers with all these different materials that he can go through to like get them to make their lightsaber hilts. And
it's like selecting the wand.
it
very much is like selecting the wand. It's a lot of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But Gunji's in particular is made out of like bark from a tree on Kashyyyk that is as strong as steel.
Yeah. By the way, so here's the thing. If you guys want to know something about me, there's things in this world that I like. Things that are made of wood, things that are made of metal, and things that are made of glass.
Yeah.
And any if it's made out of plastic, basically that really only leaves like a couple other things. But plastic does not. I don't like it. And I like things that are carved of wood. I like things that are blown from glass, and I like things that are welded together and made out of my laptop, which is not a MacBook but is still a unibody aluminum design. That appeals to me. So sure, most lightsabers are made out of metal.
Yeah,
but they're always often, not always, quite industrial looking.
Yeah, kind of boring looking. Yeah.
Obi-Wan's lightsaber does nothing for me. I find it like to be like that's like basic bitch stuff.
There's cool ones. Like some people have a little bit of extra flair.
Yeah, I like Dooku's lightsaber with a little curve on the hilt. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I like Ahsoka's because the hilts look like samurai. Sword hilts,
like katanas. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Same thing with like Asajj Ventress. Hers are like a cool shape too.
So I think
there's a lot.
I feel like the originals are the least interesting ones, like Luke's and Anakin's and Vader's, and it's. Like,
I feel like as they've gone, they get a little bit more like unique. Intricate, but like, man, like a Wookiee having one that's made out of wood is really really cool.
Yeah. So, listen, there's a lot of different websites that you can get your own custom made lightsaber for several $100s, and I've yet to do it. Although I feel like it's just a matter of time until I do. But honestly, there's a couple favorites I have at the top of my list. Either something completely unique that I want to make for myself, or if I'm going to get like a replica lightsaber, I kind of want to have Gunji's. I kind of want to have a wooden lightsaber.
Right?
I think that's
It'd be pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, we'll see how long Gunji survives.
Doesn't matter. Lightsaber still exists.
That's true. But yeah, no, his is really cool. But yeah, it's a cool arc. I mean, eventually, Hondo gets involved and there's pirates and a circus and it gets a little kooky and
yes, that it does get a little kooky.
The first 2 episodes are pretty cool. Like before all that happens, where we actually get to see, because we don't actually often get to see Jedi finding their kyber crystals.
Well, we don't get to hang out with a lot of younglings at all.
Yeah, that too. So
unless they're being murdered by Vader,
from what I can kind of tell, like that episode is like a couple years before like this happening.
Yeah,
because Gunji's much bigger now. He looks more like adolescent.
He's longer in the tooth. This is a joke that I'm stealing from the screen crush.
Oh, his cute little snaggle tooth.
Yeah.
So cute. But
I think so a couple things. I love seeing Gunji, and by the way, but the fact that he reaches Kashyyyk, I think, goes a long way. Of course, Kashyyyk goes as far as Kashyyyk goes, it goes through a lot throughout the era of the Empire. Wookiees are slaughtered and taken into custody and slaved and all these kind of things.
Now,
but it's a big planet and in a big jungle. So I got to imagine that there's a lot of Wookiees that remained safe over that time.
Some, yeah. So question about that whole thing, about the Empire coming in and enslaving them and all that. I assume, has that happened yet, or does that happen after this?
It's happening now.
Is it currently happening? Because I'm like, I wonder if they're kind of alluding to the fact that like the Empire obviously gets told that a Wookiee Jedi has been seen on Kashyyyk.
Are we sure about that?
Well, yeah, because I think the Trandoshans and stuff were like talking back and forth with like.
Well, so here's what
because there's stormtroopers there, so I would assume.
There's clone troopers actually.
Or clone troopers. That's what I mean.
So here's what I think. I think they made I think there's a specific line in this episode that delineates whether or not the knowledge of Gunji will reach the Empire or not.
Okay.
So Gunji destroys that first tank, leaves those lightsaber marks behind, and then the clones are like, lightsaber marks? Whoa, this is crazy. A surviving Jedi. We should really call this in. Right?
Yeah.
And then the Trandoshan commander says, not unless I can kill him first. So I think that he overrides the clones and says, don't call it in. We're going to take this on. And because none of them survive, I don't think the word gets out. And I think because of that, I think Gunji's largely safe. Yeah. Honestly.
But so maybe largely safe where he is on Kashyyyk, but at the same time, those droids, we don't know who they were selling him to. Because they knew he was a Jedi because they had his lightsaber.
That's true. Actually, that's a good point.
So I don't know. We don't know if they're like, oh, is it a buyer for him? So we don't know.
The buyer wanted him alive.
Right. So is that Vader? Is that an Inquisitor? Is that someone wanting him for the spice mines? Like, because that was the thing at this point in time too. Sure. Was the Wookiees were getting rounded up and taken to the spice mines. So I'm like,
of Kessel.
Yeah. So I'm like, interesting. So we don't know who this buyer was either. So that's
honestly, I feel like you're right. I think you're fair to ask that question, but I feel like the show doesn't want you to think about that. Honestly, I don't think that the show is saying, well, what about the buyer? Because I think they would have asked that question already.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I think it's fair to say, but and to be honest, it could come back later. I think there's that's like an open thread that they could pull on
for sure. Why they're leaving it open.
I don't know if that's what's happening here specifically right now.
Yeah. So we don't think that him going to Kashyyyk causes any
sort of
stop
trying to kill Gunji. Please stop.
No, I'm not. No, I'm just saying.
Stop it. No.
Do we think that him being there is going to cause a bigger Empire presence there, which in turn causes
So we know that the Empire comes there in force, right? We see some of the ramifications of that in the
they already say that they're.
We've heard
even in this episode they talk about it because I think it's either
deforestation.
Saying that deforestation is happening, but But
anyways, I mean, this is why this episode is more interesting. To be honest, I mean, this is the reason why. But in terms of how this kind of all plays out, the thing is, this planet specifically is under Imperial control until well after the Battle of Andor, years after the Battle of Andor. So. There's lots of time for Gunji to help with the rebellion. Of course, we get no reference to him in Aftermath when Han goes there with Chewie to free the planet, right? But that doesn't mean that, again, it's a big planet, and the jungle specifically, a jungle is so thick and you can hide so easily. It's so hard to say.
Well, it's also their home world. Like they would know it better than anyone, right? So
right. And there's giant spiders everywhere, so you got it's not like you can just go strolling through the forest.
It's like Avatar.
Well, the giant spiders actually remind me more of again Harry Potter.
So. Yeah.
Okay, so where were we?
Basically, we went on a tangent after we were like, oh, it's Gunji.
Right. Yeah. So Gunji's here. And God, I just love Gunji so much. And so Omega and Gunji are then on the run in the station, hiding from more droids amongst shipping containers. It looks like Omega is about to be caught, but Gunji comes from the ceiling with a save with that electric staff thing. Gunji searches through a chest for something, probably looking for his lightsaber, when Echo arrives, but Gunji isn't happy to see him because he's a clone, and he takes off. I really appreciated seeing, getting the opportunity to see more Jedi reckon with clones after Order 66. I just think that's compelling. In this case, we get no dialogue, right? We just see his face and kind of how he reacts, and I find that's interesting.
Bit of a
kind of reacts like a dog does, to be honest. I mean, to be honest, Wookiees have kind of always had dog-like mannerisms, to be honest, and I think it's because they're furry. It's just easy to use things that we understand.
It's easy to relate.
Yeah, but it's easy to relate. But anyway, so he takes off. Meanwhile, with Hunter, as they're about to finalize the deal, the leader gets a radio call about a situation. And I like when he's like, is there a problem? I thought that was fun. The team, as they're like, give us a second, we'll take care of this. The team surmises that it must be either Echo or Omega who's causing the disturbance. So and then they get a call from Echo saying they need backup.
Yeah, I love that. This the timing of that made me laugh. And of course, Tech is like, yeah, it's definitely one of those two. And he's like, probably Omega. Like he just knows.
Yeah.
It's like every time you tell her to like stay with the ship or like go do, she never does. So.
Yeah, no, it's true. So they get into a standoff with the leader, and actually, this is where I thought the lighting was really cool. He's kind of like under this like one light, and he's like, "What?" And he's kind of does this cool pose. I just thought the design of these droids is really cool too.
Yeah, they did have really cool design.
They like, what is this treachery? Because to them it looks like they're kind of trying to pull a fast one, pull a deal, and then also, this other thing at the same time. But while the leader's distracted, Gunji uses the Force, grabs his lightsaber, and what I appreciate about this, is that he is not shy to light that thing up and just start cutting things apart. So, he lights that sucker up, and another thing I really appreciated was the look of shock on Omega's face and on Hunter. We don't see Hunter's face, but we do see him react to the idea of a lightsaber at all. Omega's never seen one before. Am I right on that? I don't think so. Is there a lightsaber in season 1? There is,
on
but
Ryloth?
Not.
No.
I don't think Omega's ever seen a lightsaber. Correct me if I'm wrong here, please.
I can't remember.
But I don't think so. I don't think she's ever met a Jedi. And so she, she's surprised. Hunter is even more shocked. He's so shocked at first he doesn't even jump into action as things start happening. But then they jump into it and they take out the droids pretty quickly. Some pretty cool like action sequences in this episode, including this one, which is pretty short. But Hunter uses that like forklift basically as cover, and then Hunter leaps over it and then stabs the droid in the head. So this is like they use droids, I think, sometimes as stand-ins for other stuff because they can do way more cool action with them. And
yeah, definitely. Fair. Yeah, it obviously it's a little less gruesome when it's not like a people
cut in half.
Yeah, they can't really show them stabbing a person in the head.
No, especially not with like a knife. It's not even a lightsaber.
No.
It's just a knife.
Yeah.
So Gunji uses his lightsaber, and I love as soon as he lights it up, he does kind of like that like very standard blaster bolt deflection. Like I think it's like Form 1 or Form 2. It's like the boom, 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 3 move thing. And I'm like, ooh, buddy, I'm into this. Go cut those suckers down. And so that was fun. And by the way, I also like that he has a green lightsaber. I've always liked that. It just somehow something about Wookiees and having a green lightsaber makes a lot of sense.
It makes the most sense, but yeah.
Is it because trees are green?
I don't know. That's kind of like nature and green and whatever.
Guess, okay.
I know people like, some people like to be like, oh, but a blue lightsaber means this, and it's like, nah, it doesn't. I don't think they mean anything other than like, I do like the theory about Mace's being purple because he's kind of dark side, so it's like his crystal is like a little bit bled.
Well, I don't know. I think the whole purple thing was that his is unique because he is a unique form of lightsaber.
I think Samuel L. Jackson just asked for it too.
Well, yeah, okay. The real reason is he wanted purple's his favorite color, and he wanted a purple lightsaber,
which is just badass.
Which is just as good enough of a reason.
Again, why? Because it looks cool.
Yeah, and then this is why you have to go back and explain it later, and it's clunky. That's just the way it is. Okay. So on the ship, Gunji is sitting alone and scared of the clones. Omega wants to feed him, but he's nervous. Tech gives an extremely clunky line about like, well, no wonder he's nervous considering all the clones, committed genocide on the Jedi.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, God, like really? I mean, I know Tech is not supposed to be like emotionally intelligent, but like,
right? Yeah.
It's like, holy crap! That's just like, I just feel like we don't need that line. I think everyone at this point knows that. Like, I don't feel like we need that anymore.
Yeah, fair enough.
It just felt like, what if someone in the room was like, well, what if people don't know why he's scared? It's like, just mention the word Order 66, and that's all you need to do. You don't need to literally in detail describe the fact that they killed the Jedi. Like, we get it. You know what I mean? I just feel like that's not trusting the audience there. So, but we also get, which is Hunter's, like, he has 2 jobs, which is to be reluctant and to also have to apologize for being associated with the Empire/Republic.
Yeah.
Right? We're not like that. We're not like the other clones. And then later has to explain it to the Wookiees. We're not like the other clones, right? So he apologizes and kind of and with Omega there kind of vouching for him. And by the way, there's a moment earlier, right when they're escaping the space station, when they're all about to they're getting onto the ship, and Gunji kind of like looks like, should I get on the ship with these clones?
Right, right, yeah.
But also, where else am I going to go? So he does eventually do it, but he's still nervous about it later, and I just think that's a nice kind of, again, like this subtle work what you can do with people who don't speak, or at least they don't speak English, so we don't know what they're saying. So Hunter, he knows a little bit of Shriwook, which is the language that Wookiees speak, and figures out that his name is Gunji, so everyone knows his name, which is nice. And apparently, he's been on the run since Order 66 and is trying to make his way to Kashyyyk because he has nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
They agree to take him there, but are worried about the Empire's outposts. Echo is like, we don't know if he's safe there, and I like how Hunter's like, he's a Jedi, he's not safe anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? I think all that stuff, we know that already, but it's nice hearing other people kind of empathize with that situation when it's typically been us have to do it. So it's nice to have someone else in the world do it for us. As they approach the planet, they say they're heading to a village they know, and Echo mentions he's picking up smoke and deforestation, as we mentioned. Anything you'd want to add to this kind of brief ship sequence?
No, I don't think so. I just, yeah. I know that, like, Hunter has a brief little, like, kind of sit down there with Gunji and just tries to explain to him that, like, they weren't part of Order 66 and they're not with the Empire, that kind of stuff, just to try and gain his trust a little bit. So I did think that it was a very sweet moment where, like, Omega's obviously so concerned and really wants, she's like, you have to eat, and, it's got to be hard for this
that
poor
food looked
poor
terrible, though, by the way. I'm just going to be honest.
All the food in Star Wars looks terrible. Like, the rations. True. They're always eating, like, it's like when the Jedi had those, like, gray sticks all the time that they would eat during the Clone Wars. Yeah, it always looks terrible.
Yeah, the only thing that ever looked good was that, like, bread that Rey makes out of water.
That also looked terrible.
It looked not bad. At least it looked edible to me.
Yeah.
I always thought that was so cool that there was, like, a practical effect that they somehow managed to do. I just thought that was always very cool. Okay, so they arrive on Kashyyyk, and as we land, we get some very cool tribal-y, synthy. I don't know if it's synth or it's just an instrument that I don't know, like a woodwind that's been tweaked a little bit or synthesized a little bit. But they, again, Kevin Kiner just really again kicking it out of the park.
I actually, like, noticed this time. I was like, ooh, I really like the music on the background music and everything on Kashyyyk, because it's got, like, I don't know, just like the wood sounds mixed with, like, the wood instruments, but then a little bit more like heavy actual.
Yeah, it gives it a little bit of drama with this like ring sound that they thrown in there. Yeah,
it was good, but like, I really, really liked it. I was like, oh, I like the Kashyyyk soundtrack.
Yeah, I mean,
it's like I would just listen to that
on vinyl.
Yeah.
So they land and they discuss how Gunji only remembers things from their planet from his dreams, because remember, children who are sent to the Jedi Order are often sent when they're babies.
Right.
Very,
young.
very young. So, and the thing, I guess, with Gunji is that he's a Wookiee, so he could probably be like 50 or 60 years old. He could be like a Grogu situation, you know?
Yeah.
They live, I don't know, maybe not that long, maybe 25, something like that. But
I meant to look up at what age, like, do Wookiees, are they like adults at, like fully grown? Because I don't know if they have like a delayed thing, like, the Grogu and Yoda species, or whether they grow normally, but they just live really long, right? So I don't know. I don't really know how old he is.
I'm looking on Wikipedia, and I'm not.
To me, it seems like he's like still an adolescent here, because he's not full grown for sure.
Oh no, 100% no.
Yeah,
you see a full grown Wookiee in this.
Yeah, but he's also not like he's bigger than he was in the Clone Wars episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, he is. But regardless, he doesn't remember Kashyyyk because he was a baby essentially when he was taken from Kashyyyk. Now, what I like is that, if you recall, which you just watched this episode, you'll remember more than I will. But when that droid comes out to help them make their lightsabers, he's like, "Oh, a Wookiee Jedi that's very rare. Your planet, or your people must be very proud.
Must be very proud, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is a nice idea. I mean, I guess because, like you said, there's just not very many of them.
No.
But it ties in a little bit, I guess, with this concept that the tribe leader, what's her name?
Yana.
Yeah. Talks about how this idea of like when they leave, the trees are sad, and then when they return, they sing.
Yeah.
So, but we don't really get any context for what the Wookiees think about a Wookiee Jedi.
Right. That's true.
I would like to know more about that. So.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, that's the thing. We don't really know. At least I specifically don't really know a lot about Wookiees in general before the Clone Wars, and like what type of I don't know, like, not people they were, but like in the Clone Wars there's lots of warriors, right? Like a lot of the
Sure.
Wookiees are warriors and they're strong and like that kind of thing. So you would think that would kind of translate over to being like proud of one being a Jedi, because they
Sure.
probably value their warriors. But I don't know how much need they had for warriors outside of the Clone Wars, so I'm not too sure.
Well, I mean, of course, the Wookiees were originally going to be the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi. Right?
Oh, okay.
We're going to go to Kashyyyk instead of Endor, but Lucas wanted a species that had no technology at all, and because we spent all this time with Chewie, who is like flying the
right,
the Millennium Falcon and stuff, it didn't make sense. Although I think that could have easily been explained away as being like
him being an outlier. Yeah,
him being an outlier. So, but they didn't go that way, and they wanted to sell more teddy bears, so that's what we got. We got Ewoks instead. But I think and then of course they fleshed them out a little bit more in the holiday special, which of course no one talks about anymore, but. They have the idea of Life Day. And I just think learning more about the Wookiees is interesting. We learned that they speak to the trees here.
Yeah.
And that they talk back, which is even more interesting.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on there. But anyway, so they land. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like they're very in tune with their own planet and the creatures on their planet and, like, that kind of thing, right?
Right, and we see that Gunji is in tune with those things, too, because he kind of, like, uses the Force with the spiders, and I feel like it's like a natural. I feel like here's the thing. That's what I think. The Wookiees would appreciate a Wookiee Jedi because they have, even more so than a normal Wookiee, are able to commune with nature.
Yeah, of course. Right? You'd be even more connected to the Force and nature and animals, and exactly. Kind of like how Ezra's really like in tune with like animals and nature and that kind of thing. Yeah.
More on him later this year.
Yeah.
Okay, so they start walking through what looks to be a spider nest, and Gunji uses the Force to calm them down, so they can kind of clear their way safely. As long as they're not a threat, they'll be fine. But that being said, these giant spiders are very gross. These of course are not the same giant spiders as we see in Jedi Fallen Order, which are much hairier and grosser looking.
Right. Yeah.
But
those were scary. I remember playing that part
cutting off
of
their
the game
limbs and stabbing them in the head and stuff.
Did not like having to fight them. I was like, ooh, I hate it.
Yeah, I was never a fan. Although it was fun watching them kill stormtroopers. So here's the other thing, which is that of course when Lucas sold Lucasfilm to Disney, the Clone Wars is canceled at that time.
Right.
And there's a lot of episodes that were in development that never came to be. One of those episodes, which we have some what are they called? Animatics for, which is kind of like a
it's like the very rough animation.
Yeah, rough animation. Thank you. So we have animatics for an episode that involved the Bad Batch going to Kashyyyk and working with Yoda and the Wookiees, and these giant spiders were a part of that. Also, so were those like giant like cat things that we see later.
I want to know what those are called.
I don't know.
They were cool.
Yeah, it's like a giant tiger,
it's
I
like
guess.
a monkey cat. I don't know.
I don't know. It is like, cool looking.
Whatever that is, it's awesome, and they're massive because they're full-grown Wookiees are riding them. So
that's right. They're like the size of like a small house.
They're huge. I was like, whoa! I love when
they're like dinosaurs.
Leave it up to like Dave Filoni to just throw in out of nowhere, like not no context, but like just in a Bad Batch episode, this fucking massive creature out
we
of
would have
nowhere.
had context because those were also in that other episode, and they had to tame them in that episode. So
were they in
which we
that
never got to see.
episode that
Yeah.
was okay? Because I'm like, oh man, like that's just a funny thing to me that out of nowhere it's just like, oh, you know what? Look at this massive cat monkey
Yeah,
creature.
and it's pink.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a
pumped.
shame to me that we never got that episode, though. I'm hoping that we'll get to see some of this stuff maybe in its most recent type of animation, which is obviously the best we've seen. But because the Bad Batch allude to having worked with the Wookiees before, and they all this stuff. So it also means that they've met Yoda, which is also interesting.
Oh yeah.
And that like there's just I don't know. There's like all these other factors that they could have met Chewie. They could know there's a lot of these other things that we don't know, or Tarful exactly. So there's lots of things that we kind of don't get to see, and also I think that would have been the first introduction to the Bad Batch, or at least one of them, early on. So it's a shame we don't get that, but it's nice that hey, you know what? We don't need that. We'll just tell the sequel to that story without without having to get into the back stuff. So where were we? They walk through the spider's nest. The giant spiders are gross. Okay, they approach a lookout, and we get another cool synthy punch as we look out at the forest, but with smoke ominously hanging overhead. They approach the village to find it burned and note that tanks had been through there.
Yeah.
Gunji is sad, but Omega promises to help him find the Wookiees. They hear a mechanical noise, and they go to investigate. They find Trandoshans, those damn Trandoshans, with a Wookiee hostage. Before we get into this, we have a comment from a viewer on Twitch, DarkSage9117. Let me say this: I do not fault. I'm just like, let me quote. Let me say this: I do not fault Disney for what they've done to Star Wars. They were destined to fail, no matter what they did. You cannot please every single Star Wars fan out there. I like some of their content, but not being a big EU fan, I can understand why people despise what Disney has done with Star Wars. But I still contend to this day, if it was damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. And I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing. We don't know how much Star Wars we would have gotten if Lucas hadn't sold Star Wars to Disney.
That's very true.
And what we know of the sequel trilogy that he had in mind, I don't think people would have liked it very much. And and that could have been like the death knell. Instead, we had the Clone Wars single-handedly keeping Star Wars alive for a generation, over 10 years, basically. Not quite that long, but a long time. And then then it was sold, and sure, it's not all been perfect, and I'll be the first to say that the sequel trilogy we got is mostly bad. With one stellar entry in the middle. But yes, people have they come to Star Wars and they all bring their own baggage, right? I like the who knows what they're talking about. They like the Thrawn trilogy, or they they wanted to see Lucas's vision of the sequels, whatever. He's right. It's a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. But if there's one silver lining to the whole thing, it's that we got more Star Wars out of it, and ultimately it got us to a point where we can do The Mandalorian, which is great.
Yeah.
And Andor, which is amazing, right? If those things, if that hadn't happened, I don't think we would have seen those things. And that alone, I think it makes it worth it. So
yeah, I don't think that there's any fan base out there of like any long running, be it Star Wars or Star Trek or whatever, because the longer your fan base runs for, the more people you add to it, right? So you have different generations of people that are just going to be into and like different things. And so, yeah, you're right. Like, you're never going to be able to appease everyone. It's just impossible because it's such an eclectic group of people that you're trying to like put content out for. So I agree with the fact that it's like, I'm just glad to have the content, even if I don't necessarily love all of it 100%.
All great. Yeah, it's not all great, but to be honest,
to me, I don't need to love it all.
It wasn't all great before either.
No, it wasn't. It's like there's lots of things. So I'm like, yeah, like I totally get that point. It's just but for me, I'm like, yeah, I'm just happy to have the content and happy to be able to
I mean,
enjoy it or not.
This show wouldn't be here, I think. And and Dark Sage adds, plus what if someone else had come in and bought it? Like, imagine if it had been Universal or Discovery. We know the mess that they're in with DC, right?
Yeah.
So
or Sony.
it could be much worse than Disney. And I agree. I think here's the thing, right? People are going to say, sure, they bought, and I agree. They botched by not planning out that sequel trilogy. That was stupid. But I think they've done a lot of course correcting since then. And they've given a lot of free reign to these creators. Like, the fact that sure, they ended the Clone Wars, but now they're making the Bad Batch, that they're keeping Lucasfilm Animation employed when they didn't have to. And now they're making some of the best shit out there in terms of animation. In my opinion, it's very compelling. And not everyone likes the how it looks, and certainly hard to get used to, especially when you look at the old stuff. But
oh yeah, like the animation itself was beautiful.
It's great, and it's like, so that kind of stuff I think is it's like, hey, they understood the assignment, at least with some of this stuff in it, and they're kind of letting people, Tony Gilroy make Andor. I just feel like they have the money that they can lose if something isn't going to work to try these things, and I think to Darksage's point, I mean, if it wasn't Disney, it could have been much worse. So anyway, thanks for watching, Darksage.
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Always good to have more people in the chat. Again, come watch, listen live, part of the show,
chit chat with us.
Yeah. So all right, let's get back to where we were. They hear mechanical noises and they go to investigate. They find Trandoshans with a Wookiee hostage. Trandoshans. Do you want to give the background on why this is important here?
Wookiees and Trandoshans do not get along. Trandoshans are notorious for hunting Wookiees.
What's the first Trandoshan we've ever seen in Star Wars?
Bosk, right?
Bosk, and we saw him in Empire.
And
he doesn't do anything in
Empire. No, he's a bounty hunter.
He's one of the cool bounty hunters.
Yeah. He's kind of the first one we see, but we kind of get throughout all the extended stuff that Trandoshans are slavers. They hunt Wookiees for sport. They sell their pelts. They also will capture them and sell them to the spice mines.
Yeah, speaking of...
they'll put them in fighting pits and that kind of, because that's where Kersantin comes from, is he got put in Trandoshan fighting pits. So yeah, Wookiees and Trandoshans do not get along.
No,
they hate each other.
I kind of think it's cool. It's like, okay, you have the furry ones and the scaly ones. And the scaly ones are the bad ones. It's just funny.
Yeah, Trandoshans are the bad guys, though. Out of the two.
They often are. There's the odd good one. Is Sid not a good Trandoshan?
There's Sid, and there is a Jedi Trandoshan in the High Republic as well.
Oh, really? Okay, so
in the comics,
so there can be some good ones.
His name is Skier.
Oh, cool. I'm sure he'll turn bad.
Some kind of... No, he doesn't necessarily turn bad, but some bad stuff happens to him. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So Hunter is interested here. He wonders how they got their hands on Imperial tanks, which turned out to be actually Separatist
That's
tanks.
What I thought. I was like, those look like old, abandoned Separatist tanks. Man, it's such an Empire thing to do, to hire shitty Trandoshans to go and whatever, just find some Separatist tanks there and go round up some Wookiees and burn stuff to the ground and just be awful, right? Like, that's such a Empire thing to do.
What I like though, these aren't just regular tanks; they're flamethrower tanks, and that is cool to me. So, we understand the reason. They've essentially been hired as contractors.
Basically just to go be awful. Yeah.
Yeah, your planets are close together. I'm sure you've always wanted to invade. Here's your chance.
It's like, you already mess with the Wookiees all the time, right? Here, just go do it for money now. Yeah, do it for more money.
Actually, so you mentioned the Wookiee pelts. Something that people might not know is that our friend and yours, Boba Fett, like a banta, he actually, in the original, when the first time we saw him, had a Wookiee pelt. That braided thing he has is Wookiee hair. So
interesting.
So you guys don't know that. That's just kind of cool.
Not cool, Boba Fett.
Not cool, bro. I think he probably regrets it now that he's like a full-on good guy.
He's changed.
But, he's changed.
Yeah.
That experience in the belly of
the Sarlacc
in the Sarlacc pit has changed him. Yeah, and also cost him all his hair. Okay. So they jump into action basically because the driver makes a call to the commander, and while that's happening, Gunji basically sneaks away before the batch can stop him. he lights his lightsaber up, and then there's a very cool action sequence with some very cool music. And with the help of the Batch, they destroy this tank. And important to note here, Batch aren't using stun anymore.
Oh no, not for Trandoshans.
Yeah, not for Trandoshans. They don't.
Nope.
They don't get that. They don't get that that level of respect. These guys get full on kill setting.
Yeah.
And they rescue the prisoner. And there's a really cool moment here when Hunter like makes his way up onto the tank, and then as the guy comes out of the tank, he punches him in the face, which is really cool. By the way, I think this is important to note, which is that the Bad Batch are the A-team in space. I don't think we've ever said that explicitly, but that's what they are. They are the A-team.
That's so funny.
Dun, dun, dun.
That's true.
Bum, bum, bum. Bum, bum, bum. Anyway. Okay. After the battle, they dig a trench to stop the fire from spreading, and are greeted by Wookiees riding those giant cat things. The trench digging here, I guess, is important because they do a shorthand cut later to where we're not having to see them dig the trench anymore. So we have to see them do it now so that they don't have to show it later.
Right.
You dig trenches to stop fires from spreading, I guess, is the methodology.
I thought they were just throwing dirt on the fire, but okay.
I think it's
probably a
little of both. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, they're just like digging up dirt and throwing it on the fire. Makes sense that they're digging trenches.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
A little bit more sense.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Okay, so then they get to a village, and at the village they meet the leader Yana, and explain Gunji's situation, that he's from Kashyyyk, he's returning, but he doesn't know what tribe he's from, and Yana greets him with that traditional bow, like head touch thing, and I thought it was very touching how he didn't really know what to do at first, but then he just felt it out. I thought that was kind of cool. And again, Hunter has to explain his position in association with the Republic / Empire. But they're okay with it. And he tells them that they came because Gunji needed help. And I guess that's enough for them, which is fine. That's good. Meanwhile, the Trandoshan commander in charge of clones discovers a downed tank and sets a reward for killing of the Jedi, 100 Wookiee pelts, which is a lot, I feel like. Despite the clones wanting to call it into the Imperial command. This is what I was talking about earlier. So this guy kind of overrides.
Right.
And then ultimately I think that keeps Gunji's secret safe. For now. Back at the village, we see Wrecker enjoying some Wookiee drink of some kind. And we learn that the Wookiees have agreed to take in Gunji. And also, the Trandoshans the reason the Trandoshans are here are that they are stripping the planet for resources. And because of that, many of the tribes have fled further into the jungle. Now, I don't really know what that means because the entire planet's a jungle. So what do you mean further into it? I don't really understand that, but
I guess just deeper. I feel like
deeper
sometimes
from where? Do you
Well, I don't know. Aren't there rivers and main kind of water sources and stuff in?
Sure. Yeah. There's at least
main
a giant lake
bases
in Revenge of the Sith and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe there's many Wookiee cities and stuff, but I feel like they're not really cities in the traditional sense. They're more large tribes.
Yeah, they tend to it looks like they kind of have smaller settlements almost.
Yeah.
But
so, Echo makes a plea to Hunter to help them fight. They've been on. I think what is he? I also thought this was clunky. I thought there was a lot of clunky lines from the clones this week. They've been our allies for years. We need to do something. He always says that they need to do something, which I guess always implies that we need to kill people for them. They don't want to say that out loud. So they need to do something, and Hunter agrees to help them, and they stay to fight. So when they decide to stay to fight, the Wookiees then go to speak with the trees about how to fight the Trandoshans. The trees come up with a plan, and Hunter is just cool to go along with whatever that is, which is very open-minded of him, I think. Yeah. Any other thoughts on this kind of introduction to the village and meeting Yana?
No, I know there was one point, I think it happens just before this, where their Trandoshans are specifically burning, they say stones with carvings on them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
and they're like say I don't know. He's like asking somebody about them, like, oh, there's more of these things here, and then they get told to burn them. So I'm like, I'm
How do you burn
wondering.
stones?
That's what I was wondering too. They look like more like they were made out of wood, not
Okay,
stone.
interesting.
But yeah, they were burning them anyway, and they look like I don't know what they are. But
it is interesting. I forgot to call that out. According to the Screen Crush recap, they are also from that episode we never got to see.
Okay.
And I think they're supposed to be like memorials or something
like that.
Oh,
okay. But it's something like of significance to the Wookiee tribes. I'm assuming
yes,
it's just
right,
like
that's right.
It's just a disrespectful thing to burn them. I assume.
Yeah, it's like burning down a church or something.
Yeah. Okay. That's kind of what I assumed of the. Again, just another reason to put Trandoshans on the list of like not super cool.
Yeah, I just think that I like how Trandoshans are always like the way that they've shown them in animation, especially. They always look different. There's so many different versions and styles of them. The Wookiees I find are hard because they all look the same.
Yeah.
And not to be Wookiee racist, but they're literally covered in fur, so it's really hard to distinguish them unless they have like very distinct braids or like clothing, and which is like, they don't have a lot of clothes. They don't wear a lot of clothes either, so it's like
no, that's true. It's like you kind of need those distinguishing characteristics because when they don't have them on them, it's like they're just different shades of brown, right? Or black. Like Chrysanthemum's black, and he's got really cool sick braids.
He's got a scar on his eye, so that helps. Like there's like
he's but like Chewie, even him,
Chewie looks like every other Wookiee.
He does, except for like his belt and his crossbow.
His bandolier. So anyway, I just think it's cool that because the commander Trandoshan looks completely different than like the other Trandoshans that he's even leading, and I think that's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so where were we? Okay, so now we get to the kind of the ambush. This all happens so quickly. The Trandoshans and the clones are ambushed by the Bad Batch and the Wookiees when they blow up a tank with that, like, again, really mastered the old grenade, roll the grenade under a very specific spot.
Right,
move.
Yeah.
So they roll a grenade underneath the tank. That takes out the first one, and the ambush goes. I really like the use of like the nighttime setting here because the blaster fire like lights things up, and the dynamic lighting looks very good in the forest. So I thought that was really cool. The plan, which we didn't really hear beforehand, is for them to draw the Trandoshans into the spider's nest. The other thing I find interesting here is that, again, they're not using their stun setting. There's Trandoshans here, but there's also clones. So they have no problem killing these clones. I wish it was more consistent, or at least they explained like their thinking, Oh, these ones are extra bad because they're burning forests, and that's bad. So we're gonna have to take out. I don't know. They're gonna die anyway from the spiders, so we might as well give them a peaceful death. Yeah. Okay. So they ambush them, and then the battle ensues with Gunji again using his lightsaber as he takes out another tank and faces off with the commander one-on-one. There is a name for the commander, but it doesn't really matter what his name is because he dies in just a moment.
It's something like Venom or Veneer.
Hold on, I have the IMDb up here.
It is something cool. He does have a
Venomor.
Cool name. Venomor. There we go. I was like, he does have a badass name.
Yeah. And again, voiced by JP Karalak, and I thought does a pretty cool job here. It sounds like he's out of an anime, but it is what it is. A little stilted, but ultimately works for a villain. So where was I? Oh yeah,
Trandoshans kind of have like creepy names like that, though.
Yeah, it's a cool. I mean, I think Venomor is a cool name.
Yeah.
More Venom more. So Gunji has a one-on-one fight, and to be honest, a one-on-one fight with a Wookiee with a lightsaber is a death wish.
Pretty much.
So, So I just didn't think this was. I mean, what I liked is that it doesn't end the way that you think. So at first he takes him on, and there's this kind of tank sequence, and then he has this like flamethrower thing, and they escape into the woods, and Omega follows and watches. And I just thought it was just kind of cool reverse idea, because typically it's the Trandoshans hunting the Wookiees, right?
Yeah.
So now we have Gunji, the Wookiee, hunting this Trandoshan. And he's like freaked out. It's got like an alien feel to it. He's like,
it does.
Got the flamethrower. He's like turning around and like makes like this ring of fire.
So yeah, like I got very like Alien or like Predator vibes.
Yeah,
right?
totally. Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And so then they face off, and Gunji makes short work of the flamethrower after doing a couple dodges. I just love how he's like jumping into the trees and stuff. This is the thing that Wookiees have always been able to be strong and big jumps and stuff like that. But being able to use the Force to like do a Force jump and all that kind of stuff with a Wookiee, it's just like OP, you know?
Yeah, it's
Very
like they've
cool.
got to be like so like I couldn't imagine like I mean we see it here, but like when he gets full grown, like a full grown Wookiee with
Right.
Jedi abilities is insane. He's gonna be so strong.
Well, it reminds me of like remember who was the Jedi with the 4 arms that goes bad in the Clone Wars in the Umbara arc? What's his name again?
I can't remember.
He was crazy strong
He's
too.
the worst. Krell, is that his name?
Krell, yeah, Krell. He's crazy strong too, but like those, like anything of that size, I mean, especially if you have 4 arms, is going to be like, you know. But yeah, I mean, the Wookiees obviously can rip people's arms off, so we know we've already seen it happen.
Yeah.
So specifically of Trandoshan, think of that scene where Black Chrysanthemum rips off that Trandoshan's arm in the bar and Book of Boba Fett.
That's so good. They grow back though.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It just they grow back, but I'm just thinking of like Deadpool.
Oh, his little baby arm.
His little baby arm.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I do think it's funny how they give Trandoshans that ability though, that they can grow back limbs.
Well, yeah, just like lizards. And stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. So the like I said, Gunji takes out the flamethrower, and just as Gunji's about to go in to finish him off, the spiders arrive and like basically tell him to like, oh no, we'll take care of this. So he like turns off his lightsaber. He's like, okay, cool, you guys take care of this. And then he jumps into the trees, and the music, it's got these like terrifying strings. It's like full on horror show.
It is.
As he's wrapped up in this silk and screaming as he's pulled into the canopy, presumably to be eaten slowly over days.
Way worse than a lightsaber.
Oh my, you can't grow back from that, bro.
No.
You ain't growing back from that. So I thought that was just like, that's one of those like rare moments where you get to see Lucasfilm get to do something like particularly
creepy
gruesome.
And dark. Yeah.
But like, we don't have to see it to imagine it.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like the screams and the like that scary music are enough. And I just thought like, whoa, that is bad. Because like it also goes on longer than I expect. There's a lot of screaming.
It does. Yeah, and like it really slowly pulls him up.
Yeah.
It's like,
oh my God,
it's so creepy.
Very
well done though.
Yeah. Again, but yeah, he deserved it.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so then again, there's this line clunkily delivered about the fire spreading, and Hunter is like, call in the Wookiees, we need their help, and then cut to them having solved the problem.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add about the ambush and the final?
No, I mean it's just all great. Like we definitely covered it. It's just yeah, you love to see it. You love to see Star Wars get a little creepy. So
that's right. That's 100% correct. Just a little creepy, And I think they lean on the spiders. I feel like in Star Wars, and to be honest, it's effective. I don't like it.
There's just so many different ways you can draw them. So
yeah. As long as they don't to be honest, these ones weren't so bad because
they have like weird long necks. Like they're more like a mantis.
They've got these like long, tall, like tail thing instead of like the bulbous.
Yeah, I don't like the bulbous.
I don't like the bulbous ones. Yeah,
no, I don't like those ones either.
Okay, so after the fight, everyone's finished digging, and the batch is everyone's enjoying the Wookiee drink, even Echo this time, who's much more open-minded. And he's like, oh, it's not that bad. Okay, buddy. It was probably not that bad before, too, but you were too stubborn to try it.
Yeah.
And then Hunter reflects on how Gunji and Omega... I thought this was... this is this little stinger at the end, and I just thought it was so on the nose. So obviously, who's the leader of the Wookiees again?
Yana.
Yana, not Nana.
Yeah.
Yana has this speech about the trees, so rejoicing when the children return, and then how they'll find their own path, right? And I thought that was kind of like that was well conveyed, right?
Yeah.
And this is already something that the show has already touched on, which is this idea that Hunter wishes that he could give Omega a childhood, something that he never had, certainly, right? And how that she can't have it because the turmoil in the world is kind of stealing that from her and from Gunji, who's also a kid. And but his last little line here, which is the one day they'll find their own path, and then his little add-on, which is hopefully one far away from war. Yeah, no shit.
Yeah.
No shit, Hunter. That's just it's just again,
I know.
not giving the audience credit to understand what they're saying here, which is of course, yeah, the war is stealing people's livelihoods, their lives, their childhoods. And that's obviously terrible, but to say it so bluntly, I feel like doesn't add anything.
No,
it just feels like it lacks all nuance. So, some good, some bad. But that final little stinger, I was like, ugh, Hunter. A little bit of have you ever heard of a metaphor?
Yeah.
It's like a simile, but you don't use like or as. Anyway. That's the episode. Final thoughts, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'm happy to get away from the other ones. I don't know. I'm just
glad that those. So is your takeaway that it's? I'm just glad it wasn't episode 4 and 5.
No, I'm like, okay, this is where I wanted to be 2 episodes ago. Like this pacing and this kind of like you said, the world building, we're getting outside of just this bubble of the Bad Batch are on a mission. Like we're getting outside of that, and it's
kind of not really.
They are on a mission, but I just mean this has more ramifications as a whole. There's we have a Jedi, we're bringing in someone that we've seen before. It's okay, cool.
Sure.
I always love to see a Jedi who's survived and is still surviving Order.
Well, I think that's the thing too, which is this adds stakes because we didn't know Gunji's fate, and then a Jedi like Gunji could die at any time. So it adds stakes where Omega is not going to die, in this episode.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So yeah, and I mean, we'll see kind of where we go next week, whether we're going to stay on a little more of a serious tone in the world, or whether we're going to go back to just another mission, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think. Actually, you know what? I have no idea. Who knows? Let's see. What's the next episode going to be called? The Clone Conspiracy. Okay, that one sounds good.
Ooh, okay, there we go.
That one sounds good. All right, I'm in. I'm in. All right, I'm stoked.
That's what I mean. I'm like, okay, I think we're kind of ramping up now. I think we got the fluffy episodes out of the way, and I think we're gonna get a little bit more exciting. And do we know how many episodes this?
Oh yeah, it's 18 or something. Like
Is
that.
it?
It's
okay.
Quite a few. It might be more than that. It might be 24. It's a lot of episodes. So there's
okay.
There's quite a few. Let's see, all episodes. Let's see here. There are 16 episodes. So less than what I said, but still quite a lot. Yeah.
No, so what what are we on?
Oh shit! And honestly, now we have the names of all the episodes here. So
do we?
Clone Conspiracy next week. Then Truth and Consequences.
Oh.
The Crossing. Retrieval.
Mm-hmm.
Metamorphosis. The Outpost. Pabu. I don't know what that means. Tipping Point. The Summit, and then Plan 99 is the final episode of the season.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I think the Clone Conspiracy, I hope it brings back Cody. That'll be interesting.
Yeah, me too.
Or more likely Rex, but we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I'm kind of hoping for Cody, actually. I would like to see...
Maybe he'll be in Truth and Consequences. That would be more of a Cody episode.
That was such a good episode, and then it was just like, well, what the hell? We got nothing after
You have to let
that.
it dangle. So you have this. You have this. He's off. He's on the run.
It's
now
like a cliffhanger.
We'll pick up with him
almost,
later.
But...
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay. I feel like we're ramping up. I'm getting my energy back about it. I'm getting more excited about it.
Yeah, it was an interesting choice to throw in Faster and Entombed after an episode like The Solitary Clone. And we talked about that already, so I'm not going to repeat that. But
yeah. Well, yeah. But I know, like I said, I feel like we're getting into a little bit more meaty.
Well, I mean, certainly, storytelling. It sounds like at least the next 2 episodes are going to be very compelling, which is good because I'm here for the next 2 weeks and then I'm away again. But at least we can cover some of the 2 biggest episodes while I'm still in the studio.
Perfect.
Anywho, I think I mean I don't really have much more to add to that. It is nice that we got something with a little bit more weight. Obviously, we're episodes way longer than the other ones,
right?
So
yeah,
that'll give you some sense of why, or at least how that kind of plays out when you have an episode like those 2. We just don't have much to say.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's just a lot more to talk about. It's interesting getting into the Kashyyyk stuff and wondering about the fate of people like Gunji and how what's that mean for the future. Those kind of questions aren't really there in the other episodes. So it was good. It's nice to see something with a little bit more weight to it. Anyway, so that's the episode. We'll be back next week with the Clone Conspiracy. But in the meantime, again, please take advantage of this special offer if you're not already supporting the show at the Patreon. Get the $5 value for the $2.50 price for the first 3 months of the year, or sorry, the next 3 months, not including January. And then we'll chat with you in the Discord. And of course, we'd always like to chat with you in the chat when we do this live on Thursdays on Twitch and YouTube. Other than that, I don't think there's... Oh, yeah, Twitter, at Tower Babblecast on Twitter, if you want to hear me ranting about Netflix. And Facebook.com/Tower Babblecast, as well as if you have any thoughts or comments, send them over to our inbox at towerbabblepodcast@gmail.com. All right. Until next week.
Yeah.
May the Force be with you.